Hello, I'm Hyunjung, and today I'm gonna introduce the paper Self-Supervised Knowledge Distillation for Future Learning. Traditionally, we train a model using a huge data in a supervised manner, and then test it with unseen data from known classes. Future learning is a way to learn classes with a few samples, and unlike supervised learning, test sample is from unknown classes. To classify the unknown classes, we need to construct the dataset differently: the training set, call set, and superset. But the number of samples in the superset is too small for training a deep neural network. The problem starts here: how to make good use of the superset. Most future learning studies are based on the meta-learning or metric learning. An SKD paper insists that these approaches focus on how to distinguish the classes in superset well, while ignoring the importance of intra-class diversity. Recently, in another way, representation learning is getting attention in this field, because several studies show that simply learning code representations outperforms sophisticated meta-learning algorithms. So from these 2 points, 2 clues are obtained. First, consider the intra-class diversity, and good feature embedding is more important. For better representation learning, SKD adopts the self-supervised learning and knowledge distillation. For SSL task, rotation classification is chosen, but this can be replaced with any other pretext task. And the general concept of knowledge distillation is distilling the knowledge from teacher network to student network, which is smaller than teacher network. Based on these 2 representation learning methods, SKD proposed 2-stage learning method. We will call this stage Generation 0 and Generation 1. In Generation 0, applying the self-supervision task to learn through prediction manifold. This means that if the model knows the original orientation of the class in the image, the learned feature is in the natural manifold. In Generation 1, applying the knowledge distillation to preserve the output space of the teacher model from Generation 1, while reducing the distance between the original input and transformed inputs. Let me explain more details. First, Generation 0. Here, X bar is a set of rotated inputs including the original one. There are 2 classifiers for label prediction and rotation prediction. Crescent traffic loss is used to each task, and the total loss is a weighted sum of them. Alpha is a hyperparameter here, and this feature network can learn embedding features that are representative enough to encapsulate information about the input transformation by self-supervision task. In Generation 1, there are 2 clones of the trained model from Generation 0, a teacher network and a student network. The weights of teacher are frozen and used only for inference. To preserve the output space, K divergence loss is used to make the student's logic be the same with the teacher logic. And out loss is used to reduce the distance between original one and augmented samples. The total loss is weighted sum of them. The performance is evaluated against 4 benchmark datasets for future learning. As shown in this table, SKD outperforms other methods, and in the other dataset, it shows the same results. And there are some evaluation studies about loss function and self-supervision tasks, but more details are in the paper. This SKD paper suggested a 2-phase learning method for future learning, focused on the good representation via self-supervised learning and knowledge distillation. And as a personal discussion, not in the paper, I thought the pretext design in SSL was over in 2019, and the contrastive learning has been the main topic from 2020. However, interestingly, from 2019, future learning started to adopt the pretext task full representation learning method. So maybe the coming or current step is contrastive learning based future learning. Maybe. So thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Suyeon Kim, and today I'm going to be doing a presentation about the paper called Dynamic Fusion Feature Learning Without Forgetting, and this paper was published in CVPR 2018. The goal of this paper is to come up with an idea of learning novel classes without forgetting the knowledge about base classes during test time. It means that future learning setting in this paper does not require a further training process to extend the network to recognize novel class objects. The authors were motivated by the fact that most prior methods tend to neglect two very important requirements for a good future learning system. The first one is that the learning of the novel classes needs to be fast, and second, it shouldn't sacrifice any recognition accuracy on the initial classes that the convolutional network was trained on. So starting from here, they propose a new model with a new training process. The whole network consists of two main components: a convolutional network-based recognition model and feature classification weight generator. So these two blocks, a feature extractor and classifier, belongs to the recognition model. After the whole training process, it's able to recognize both base and novel classes. And there is also a feature classification weight generator, which dynamically generates classification weight vectors for the novel classes at test time. In training time, the feature extractor and the classifier and the weight generator are firstly trained with the base class data. After that, during test time, the features of novel class data and classification weight vectors of base classes are fed into the feature classification weight generator to create classification weight vectors of the novel classes. The training procedure is composed of two phases. In the first training step, the convolutional network recognition model, which is feature extractor and classifier, is trained with base class data. And after that, in the second training step, this is where meta-learning is involved. Feature classification weight generator is also trained with base class data, but in an episodic training manner. It means that the weight generator learns how to create the novel classification weight by applying a linear combination of base classification weight vectors that are most similar to the feature training examples of the novel class. And this allows the feature weight generator to explicitly leverage the acquired knowledge about the visual representations. And the authors also found out the cosine similarity-based classifier of the convolutional network model forces the feature extractor to learn feature vectors that formulate compact categorized clusters. Also, cosine similarity-based classifier forces the classification weight vectors to be representative feature vectors of those clusters. It is because the cosine similarity can be implemented by first L2 normalizing the feature vector and the classification weight vector, and then after that, applying the dot product operator, so the absolute magnitudes of the classification weight vectors can no longer affect the value of the raw classification score. In order to generate categorical classification weight vectors, instead of simply averaging all the features of a specific class, they decided to enhance the feature averaging mechanism with an attention-based mechanism. Basically, it generates the novel classification weight vectors by looking at a memory that contains the base classification weight vectors. In the experiments, they used mini ImageNet data and they picked 64 classes for training, 16 classes for validation, and 20 classes for testing. To evaluate the network's ability to not forget about the base classes, they picked 300 extra images for each training class, an extra 300 images for novel class as well. They evaluated the network independently, and you can see they surpassed the baselines above. They've done various ablation studies about cosine similarity and the effect of removing RALUs and all that jazz, so if you're interested, you can check out the original paper for that. I was surprised because I knew that one of the most remarkable papers in fusion object detection actually improved the performance greatly by using cosine similarity based classifier, and I didn't know that this paper actually did the first approach of doing that. Okay, so that's pretty much about it. Thank you for listening.
My presentation paper is Running Feed for the One-Shot Runners. Let's start the presentation. The content is as follows. First is introduction for this paper. Deep learning methods used to computer vision, natural language processing, and speech recognition. One of the key strengths is the ability to leverage large quantities of labeled data and extract meaningful and powerful representation from it. However, this capability is one of their most significant limitations, since using large data set to train deep neural network is not just an option, but a necessity. It is well known. For this reason, there is a method called one-shot running. It uses a few or a single examples in the training. Since we consider one-shot running as a discriminative task, our starting point is standard discriminative running. It generally consists of finding the parameters W that minimize the average loss of a predictive function. The main challenge in discriminative one-shot running is to find a mechanism to incorporate domain-specific information in the runner. Another challenge, which is of practical importance in applications of one-shot running, is to avoid a lengthy optimization process. To overcome these limitations, this paper proposed running the parameters W of the predictor from a single exemplar Z, using non-iterative feed-forward function called runNet. The key point of this paper is in the objective function dynamically depends on the given Z. This is the use of proposed runNet architecture. There are one baseline model and two modified models with CM network. The baseline model CM network is to apply the same model πxW with shared weight W2 both X and Z symmetrically. Additionally, CM runNet predicts the parameters of an embedding function that is applied to both inputs. Finally, single stream runNet predicts the parameters of a function that is applied to the other input. In the experiments section, there are two experiments: optical character recognition and object tracking. This is first experiment for optical character recognition. In the experiment-based line model, for the discriminated one-shot running are Siam architecture, and it structures the experiments to compare against this baseline. It chooses to implement RunNet using similar network topologies for a fairer comparison. Result is as follows. First, the two RunNet architecture combined with the weighted L1 distance are able to achieve significantly better results than other methods. Second, Euclidean distance gave the best results for Siam network with shared parameters. But there is no reason mentioned for this result in this paper. This is second experiment for identification of object in the given video. The data set is ImageNet large-scale visual recognition challenge with 3,862 videos. It is divided into 90% of the videos for training. The other 10% are for validation set. For these experiments, results are as follows. Firstly, RunNet achieves better performance than the original Siam network. Secondly, the performance of the RunNet architecture is not adversely affected by using the slimmer prediction network, B and C. Finally, this method can take less training time and data volume compared to typical batch deep learning method, DAT or SODLT. The conclusion also mentioned is as follows. First, it has been that it is possible to obtain the parameter of deep neural network using a single feed-forward prediction from a second network. Second, this approach is desirable when iterative models are too slow and when large sets of annotated training samples are not available. Third, it has demonstrated the feasibility of feed-forward parameter prediction into the demanding one-shot running task in OCR and visual tracking. Finally, the results hint at a promising avenue of results in running to run by solving billions of small discriminative problems in an offline pace. Thank you.
Hi, this is Kwang Ruk from CV Lab. Today I'm going to talk about cross-transformer spatially aware few-shot transfer, which is published at New Libs in 2020. As you can see, this paper was written by Google DeepMind and Oxford. Main contribution of this paper can be summarized in two perspectives. First, they improved the robustness of local feature with a self-supervised technique, modifying the state-of-the-art Sinclair algorithm. Second, they proposed the cross-transformer, a new network architecture that is spatially aware and perform few-shot classification using more local features, which improves transfer. The motivation of this paper is quite interesting. This figure shows that supervision collapse, which means supervision method can ruin the representation space seriously. In each row, the leftmost image is a query taken from the test classes, and the rest of the top 9 nearest neighbors from both training and test support set classes. For a simple classifier to work well on these test classes, semantically similar image should have similar representation. And so author hoped that nearest neighbor would come from the same or semantically similar classes. Instead, author observed that only 5% of matches for test set queries are from the same class at query. Furthermore, many matches are all from the same incorrect training classes. It is marked in a red box. So what we want to do is stopping the collapse. Author provide two ways to solve the problem. First one is self-supervised training, especially in this paper use this Sinclair to pre-train the network. They divide episode into MD categorization episodes and Sinclair episodes. MD categorization episodes are the normal episode that we know, and Sinclair episodes is instance-wise episode. I will explain it about later. Second method is a cross-transformer. It aims to build a representation which enables local part-based comparisons. One of the solutions is self-supervised learning. To using it in episodic training, we draw a training support set and transforming each image in the original support set, and generating query image by sampling of the transformation from the same support set and let the network guess. Author mixes this kind of Sinclair episode with normal episode. Main point of cross-transformer is not losing spatial information. When the query measure feature comes in, it is produced by support set and collect them all, and then apply softmax. Finally, those softmax normalized values is used for attention weights, and then we sum it to make query aligned prototype. This is visualization of the attention in cross-transformer. No matter which data set, the attention masks are semantically relevant, even when the correspondence is not one-to-one. As you can see in the BART query, eyes go to eyes, legs go to legs, wings go to wings. Author compares four versions of cross-transformer to several state-of-the-art methods, which are the best performance among these evaluated for metadata set trained on ILSVRC. We can see the CTX alone has better average rank than any baseline. Adding Sinclair episode and data augmentation inspired by BOHB further improves results. So this is the conclusion. Thanks for listening.